Hello, welcome to Hokushy Gardens and Homestead. I talk a lot about perennials in the garden, and so I thought that I would take you for a walk through my garden and show you a few of my perennials and give you an idea of what it is you can grow in your garden. So let's go. Okay, now this is lavender. It does bloom in the spring. As you can see right now, it does have a few blooms on it. But lavender will pretty much go through your winter. Now if you have a really harsh winter, it will die, back a little, and then at the end of the year, a lot of the old will die away, but a lot of new has come up. So lavender, you can make the essential oils out of that. You can make a calming tea out of that, besides the fact that it's just pretty. This is a curry plant, and you can see it's a pretty substantial thing. I have to keep this cut back really regular, 2, maybe even 3 times a year, because I don't want it to get huge. But curry, it will go through the winter. It stays green. It's a beautiful plant. Smells, if you like the smell of curry, it smells really, really good. Now this is chive. Chive is another perennial that'll go through your winter, pretty much. Now if you're a place that has really hard freezes, it may die back, but it will come back come springtime. People don't realize that about chive, but chive is a great perennial. Oregano. Now oregano is a perennial. It will die back come winter, but it'll come back and it'll take over an area. I have 2 quart-sized jars of dried oregano. I clear this out probably once a month and feed it to the chickens because it's a good antibacterial. It's really good for them. I don't know if you can see that. There's a bee just going to work on this. Rosemary. Now this rosemary, I know it looks a little rough, but that is because this rosemary is about 13 years old. And I do trim it down because I make rosemary oil. But it'll go through your winter. It'll stay green all through your winter. Rosemary is a great perennial to have. A lot of healing benefits. Rosemary is a great perennial. Now these 3 here is a radicchio, actually 2 different types of radicchio, and then the one in the middle is dandelion. Now you don't think about dandelion as a perennial, but man, a lot of people think of it as a weed. I love it in my salads, and in the springtime it is very, very sweet and tender. I do have it in a bucket because I do grow it. Although I find it all through my yard, I do not pick it out of my yard. I let it grow. Well, when I say I don't pick it, I mean I don't take it up as a weed. I let it grow because I am going to harvest it and eat it. Dandelion, it is one of the best things you can eat. It's considered a wild food. Lamb's quarters, and another perennial. I'm not sure how it's going to go through the winter because I have just got this going this year. I got this from the Homestead in Waco. So I'm curious to see how it will go through a winter. It's considered a weed also. It's a very pretty one if you ask me. Now this is one that they say don't let it go to seed. When the flower's on top, clip it off because it will just spread like crazy. Since this is my first year, I am letting it go to seed. I do want it to spread just a little bit because I do like it in my salads. I would like to have a bountiful amount of it. But starting next year, if it does spread the way they say it will, when it flowers, I will clip off those flowers so that it doesn't spread. Lemongrass. Another really nice perennial. You can make lemon tea out of this. You can use it in a lot of your Chinese cooking and Japanese cooking and any of your Asian cooking. It's very easy to pull out without destroying the whole stalk. You just pull one from the outside, kind of pull it down, and then jerk it up, and there you go. So you could have lemongrass tea every day and without destroying your plant. And I have this in a couple of areas. This one's by the chicken coop, and I have it in a couple of areas because it's, to me, it's very pretty. It's ornamental, and a lot of people grow this ornamental and not even realize actually what they're growing. Artichoke. Now this is the second year for my artichoke. It has come back. Died out during the winter, but it came back. I haven't gotten artichokes off of it this year. I do notice that there are 2 plants here, so next year I will be doing some dividing. I think it's too late in the year to divide right now, but next year I will be dividing, and I don't know if that's going to mess up the fact that I get artichokes off of it, but you know, good food is worth waiting for. So next year I will be dividing it into separate plants. Oh, actually I see there's 3 here. So artichokes is another perennial, comes back year after year. It does take a little time to get it started, but to me, well worth it. Comfrey. This is a perennial, and there's a lot of uses for this. Medicinal, comfrey tea. I use it mainly for a chop and drop. This is the one that I chopped about a week or so ago, and look at it. It's doing really, really good. Comes back really quick. Comfrey is a great perennial to have in your garden. Longevity spinach. I talk a lot about longevity spinach, but that's because I like it so much and because it is so healthy for you. I think that every home should have longevity spinach. It should be included in your meals. It's great. If you eat eggs, you can scramble it in your eggs. You know, slice it really, really thin. It's great in salads. It's great in stir fry. Longevity spinach can be used in a multiple of ways. Sage, another great perennial. It will go through the winter. It'll stay green. If by some chance you do have such a long, hard freeze that it dies back, it will come back. Sage is very resilient. It's beautiful, lush. I have it in 3 different areas in my garden area, and I love sage. Having fresh sage for holiday cooking is awesome. Kale, another perennial. It will go through your winter. It will give you food all year. If it does freeze in the winter, wait till it thaws, and then you can harvest. When the sun comes out, it's going to thaw it out. The water will suck back into it, and it'll be ready to pick. So kale is a very, very good perennial. Not to mention the health benefits of kale, but we all know that, right? Swiss chard. Another perennial that will go through your winter. And just like the kale, if it freezes, you wait and till the sun hits it, thaws it out, and then you can harvest it. You may, if it's a really hard freeze, you may lose some of the outer leaves. Just take those off, put them in your compost, and the inner leaves will survive. Now, I do have this in several different areas in my garden, and one of them I do use the hoop house, and so it is one that is larger than the others, and that is this one. The other one, let me take you over to the other one. This is the other one. It's not as large, but you can see that it went through the winter really well. Asparagus, another perennial. This will last you probably your lifetime. It is something I had to work for, but then I said before, good food, it's worth waiting for. And asparagus is good food as far as I'm concerned. Next year I'm going to try and get this going in a couple of other areas of the yard, and since now I think I know what to do, hopefully I can get it going in a couple of other areas, and I'll have 2 more good patches of asparagus. Cannas, another perennial. People don't realize that the cannas, which we call cannons, are edible. The roots are edible. Now, this isn't pretty right now. It's a little well spent, but these are daylilies. Daylilies are awesome, and yes, they are edible. The flowers look beautiful in a salad. They have great nutritional value, and they spread like crazy. Every year you'll have more and more. And the thing about the daylilies is it's the flowers you're really harvesting, although other parts of it are edible. The flowers are what you're harvesting and eating, so you're not disturbing the ground or the growth of the plant at all. A great perennial to have in your garden. Well, this little plant is Cardamon. It does die out in the winter, but it does come back. Another great perennial. Now this, a little wilty from the heat, but this is Jerusalem artichoke or sunchokes. My mother had these growing out in a field like wildfire. They were everywhere, and she'd say, oh, they're just sunchokes. But they're very edible. It's the rhizome under the ground that you're going to eat, and it's very, very good. And this grows like crazy. And this is one of those plants, kind of like the asparagus. You plant this, you're going to have this pretty much forever. It's very hard to get rid of, even if you wanted to. But why would you? It gives you food in the winter, and it's good. So those are the perennials in my yard. And of course not all of them, but for the most part. There are some that aren't actually perennials, but they're biennials, meaning that they drop their seeds and they're going to come back year after year. And I have quite a few of those also. Here's my list. I told you that I keep a list of everything that I put in my garden, and I thought that I would tell you a few of the things that I don't have in my garden yet that I'm wanting to get in my garden, just to give you an idea of what you can do in yours. Now, something that I didn't show and haven't mentioned is that all your fruit trees are perennials, and they're very important to your garden. All your fruit bushes, you know, your raspberries, your blackberries, your blueberries, your goji berries, any berry that you can get, those are really good for your garden. And of course, those are perennials. They're all going to come back year after year, your nut trees. But as far as vegetables, I don't yet have horseradish, and I want to get horseradish. I do a lot of Asian cooking, and horseradish is something that you use a lot of in that. Also, I would love to have fresh horseradish at some of the feast meals that we have. Lovage is a perennial. Now that is something that I tried once. I did plant that, but it just didn't make it. I don't know if I didn't plant it early enough to give it a boost before the Texas heat hit it, or maybe I just can't grow it here. I don't know, but I'm gonna try it again. It's not something I'm gonna give up on. Good King Henry is another thing that it's a type of lettuce, and it is a perennial that comes back year after year, and that is something that I want to get and try. I haven't tried it yet. Now, wild leeks and ramps. I have tried leeks here before, and I just can't get leeks going here. I don't know what it is, but I can't. I've tried them several different times. And then, you know, the wild leeks. So I don't know if that's something I'll ever achieve, but it is on my list of something that I want. So it's not something that I'm giving up on. One thing that I didn't show you was the scarlet runner beans, because they have done their job. I have cut them down to the ground. You don't pull them up, you cut them down to the ground, and they will come back the next year. And they have beautiful red blooms when they're, you know, blooming, and it's just a very pretty plant. Put it somewhere where it can climb up. You don't want it in the heat of the day, but it does need sunlight. So, and another thing is sea kale. That is a perennial cabbage relative, and I do have sea kale out in my garden, and I didn't show you, and I don't know why. I just I didn't think of it at the time, but I do have that. Another sorrel. Sorrel is something that I did plant this last year, and I don't know, did I plant it too early? Did I plant it too late? I don't know. It didn't take off. So I will be doing that again, because sorrel is one that I want to have growing, because it will come back year after year after year, and it will grow, and it's a good thing to have in your garden. So those are some things that I'm working on, some things that I would like to have that I don't have. And there's another that's the ostrich fern. A lot of people grow that as a, you know, just for decoration. It's ornamental, but it's a food and people don't realize it. And so that's something that it will come back year after year. And I did actually get one little sprout to come back on mine, so I don't call that accomplished. That is still something that I'm working for. Another thing that I have on here is ground nut. Now I heard about that somewhere, and that's why I wrote it down real quick. I'm not even sure what it is yet, but I'll share it with you, and maybe you can find out what it is. Put it in the comments below if you know what a ground nut is, because that was a perennial that I had heard someone talking about, so I just wrote it on my list real quick while I was thinking about it, and I haven't ever investigated to find out what it is or anything like that. So if you know, let me know. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you will consider making perennials a big part of your garden. For one reason, it's less work for you to have to do in your garden, because they're going to come back year after year. You're not going to have to dig and plant and, you know, pay them as much attention as you do anything else, because they are acclimated to your ground, to your climate, your area, and so they're going to be a lot less work. And for another reason is just the health benefits. Most of your perennials are really, really healthy foods for you to have. So consider perennials in your garden. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Give me a big thumbs up if you like the video, and share the video to get information out. Again, thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.